do you guys remember about your early cricketing days?
The first thing that springs to mind is coming and watching you play on a Saturday. We'd pitch up make our own pitch on the side, put some stumps in the ground, some twigs in the ground, and just play for hours and hours whilst your game was going on. Get in trouble for knocking the ball on the outfield and ruining the game, but to us that was a test match, wasn't it? That's what we used to do.
Yeah, padding up, and you were having your warm up before the game. We were padding up trying to kick you out.
Yeah. I remember it got a bit competitive every now and again, didn't it, as well?
Yeah.
There's one occasion, wasn't it, at Scarborough, where
This is
you
what
lost
we talk
your
about all
head,
the
didn't you?
time. This always has to come up. It was absolutely plum as well.
We had to stop the Yorkshire League match to
Yeah.
break up the fight, I think.
Because Joe had reviews then, didn't he?
You were batting.
You were.
No, you were.
See,
As I remember it, you were batting for quite a long time and then you got him out.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
there were strict rules in those days. You could only bat when you got the other one out, and so you went into bat and he got you out quite quickly, and you weren't very happy about it.
well, like I said, you reviews, didn't he?
But yeah, that was it really, and it was always very competitive, wasn't it? That's how I remember it anyway.
Yeah, I think it was only over competitive one.
Yeah. No, normally in a good spirit, but there's always a bit on it, which I think is good.
Yeah, and then you bat for hours and get out, and then you decide you need to go to the toilet.
Here we go.
No, I think more of it was travelling as well. I remember going to all the away games. I knew what all the grounds were like before I'd even got to the first team, so I knew what it was going to be like.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and we knew which grounds where we'd be able to have loads of space to play, or where we'd have to
Which
make the
grounds
most
had-
of it at lunchtime or tea time and before the game and stuff. So.
Yeah, who had the best nets?
Yeah.
A bit tight at Rotherham, but Harrogate great nets, that sort of thing.
Yeah. And at Sheffield Collegiate, how was you find your introduction to men's cricket?
Good. I mean, we had plenty of opportunity from being really young. It might be different now. You might be restricted. I think I was like 9 or 10 when I first played a men's game. And in those days, it would just be to make up the numbers really. Bat 11 in field.
You're quite happy to do that, weren't you?
Yeah, loved it. Absolutely loved it. We'd be waiting for a phone call, hoping there was a phone call every Thursday or Friday asking if you could come and play, and just to get another game of cricket under your belt. We'd obviously want to play as much as we could, so yeah, that was the first sort of introduction to proper cricket. And I actually think learned some skills from playing men's cricket as a younger kid that I wouldn't have learned just playing age group cricket as well.
Yeah.
But I think we're quite lucky in the sense that we had played under 13s, under 15s, and then when we were called up to the 5th or the 4th, generally we were playing with lads that we'd played 13s, 14s, 15s with as well. So there's 3 or 4 of you getting thrown in the deep end, so to speak, but you kind of in it together.
Yeah. Did you find you sort of got help from some of the more senior players?
Always.
Some all willing to help, but some advice was better than others, wasn't it? I think you'd find, but everyone was enthusiastic. Everyone wanted you to do well and would help out and make it a really enjoyable experience, which I think is a big part of it. Really, when you're that age, you just want people to keep coming back and wanting to be involved and wanting to play the game. So the more that we had those experiences, the more we wanted to do it, which I think is testament to the guys that were involved in those teams.
And for me, it was quite easy because you were both very, very keen to play and you were happy to practice. And I think, what advice could you give parents if they're trying to encourage their kids to play at clubs?
Get them to love it first, before thinking about trying to worry about technique or becoming of a certain standard. Just get them wanting to come back. I think if they want to come back, they'll want to get better, and they'll be interested in learning what skills they need to improve all the time. If there's not that love there initially, then I think it makes it very difficult. As soon as you get stuck a little bit, or there's a skill that you're struggling with, I think it's easier to give up on it and not want to do it as much. So I think the most important thing is to encourage the love of the game, make it a really enjoyable experience, even if to start with that's going and getting them an ice cream, or having some sort of fun treat at the end of it that makes them think, oh, if I do that again, I might have that good one-on-one time with your parent. But anything like that you can do to just really encourage them to appreciate the love of the sport is, I think, paramount to them wanting to go further in the game and finding their own sort of way in what it is that entices them into it.
So making it fun's really important.
Yeah, massive.
Yeah.
What do you think, Bill, about that?
I think it's also fun. I mean, you get a lot of young kids that want to bat and bowl and do everything, whereas a lot of the time people say to me, "Are you a batter or a bowler? Why does it have to be either or?" I used to be a bowler, but now I don't bowl. So just to encourage them to try everything and just give everything a go, because you don't know which one you are when you're 6, 7, 8, or even at 17 like me.
Yeah. And do you think there's a danger of overcoaching kids?
Massively. I think one of the most important things is try and harness the natural ability and give them a platform where they can go and experiment and learn and find something that comes really natural for them, and then see how far they can take it. And then if there are things that you can add in along the way, slowly drip feed in, then great. But I just think there are obviously core fundamentals of the game you want and you need, but beyond that, just let them go and use what natural ability they have and what comes to them first. If that's having a slightly different backlift or a very leg-sided game, then that's not a problem. Let them be good at it first, and then you can work it, adding different parts and areas to strengthen their game, but make your strengths as strong as they can be. I think encourage unique techniques and actions as a bowler in particular. Look at someone like Lasith Malinga. If he'd have been in a traditional English structure growing up, he would have had that action coached out of him, and we wouldn't have seen one of the world's best T20 bowlers of all time. So I'd say encourage individuality, encourage natural ability, and then slowly work things in if you need to add improvement or areas that need a little bit of work on.
Yeah. And on that, can you think of any players that you've played against recently that have got particularly unusual techniques?
Well, yeah, I know one, and his little sidekick, I played with one of them against the other in the last year, and they both seem to do all right.
Smith and Labuschagne.
Marnus. Yeah, but watching Marnus, he's so unique, but his basic fundamentals, as people talk about, are his, individual to him.
Yeah.
Completely different to Smith's.
Yeah.
But they get compared a lot because of how they are as people, as well as they spend so much time together, so they get compared a lot. But it's because they're scoring a lot of runs together, and they get on so well.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with how they are technically as a player.
Yeah.
Well, I think as well, you look at some of the best players of all time, Brian Lara, Steve Smith, as mentioned earlier, just two names. They've got techniques that I know coaches that would have probably coached that out of them if they were in a different system or had come through a different pathway. So I think you've got to encourage that. If they're good at it, if they've got a good understanding of why it works and how it works and why it's good for them, then I think it's really important that you keep trying to encourage that. You don't want to miss out on the next Brian Lara, do you?
No.
It's mental to think how many might have snuck through that have had it coached out of them.
Yeah.
And I always think that I would learn more by getting stuff wrong, as opposed to people telling me what to do or what not to do, figuring it out, so to speak. But by getting it wrong, generally I'll find a way to get it right.
Yeah.
If I have enough time on it.
I always say as well, the best coaches that I've worked with, they get you to ask why. They don't force anything down your throat. You end up working together to find a solution, and I think that's a big part of batting, is problem solving.
Yeah.
If someone's on a leg spin and it's turning away from you, how are you going to score runs? How are you going to combat that? What are your scoring options? And I think that filters down from right at the top of the game to the bottom. Is can you get that coaching element where the player is the one figuring it out for themselves? If they're self-teaching and you're creating an environment where they can sort of self-teach and self-learn, then they're going to progress a lot more quickly than if they're being told what to do all the time.
Yeah.
There's loads of fielders on this side spinning away from you, how you're going to get on that side. And then you just
And trial and error, find
figure it
out what works for
getting it
you.
wrong, getting it right.
I think when you two, when we started playing together in men's cricket, then you really came on as players because of the fact that you were out there. We were in the middle discussing stuff that you can't really see the kids in the net. You know, there's a guy at point, if he's left-handed, there might be a run to his right hand, and that sort of thing. You know, little things like that. You start
Took me a bit longer than most of the last. A lot of run-outs for me.
You did get run out quite a lot, didn't
when I was younger.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I think that's all of it. All part of it is experience different environments and playing in different environments. So it's a very different game playing an under-13s game on a Sunday morning to playing a men's game on a Saturday afternoon. But I think by having those experiences and having different, even different trajectories and heights to face a ball from, you have to learn different skills to combat that. And you can't really be taught how to do that and say, you need to do this. You have to figure it out yourself in a way.
Yeah.
So I think just by playing more and being in those sort of situations is probably the best way to figure things out.
Yeah. What sort of advice would you give kids who, with regards to how competitive to be on the pitch? I mean, it's, you know, look at the Australian team; they're fiercely competitive on the pitch, on the pitch, and yeah, how are we in danger of overdoing that with kids at a young age?
I just think that's just something you learn growing up, isn't it? That there's a right way to be competitive, and how to be, what do you call it? Let's play hard but fair.
Yeah.
I think that's just something. Sometimes your environment dictates that, and like you said, you mentioned the Australians. That's through years of them playing a certain type of way. Young players over there are thinking, I want to play for that team, that's how I want to play, and then that's just part of their culture, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think a big part of it is for you to get the best out of yourself, you've got to be genuine, and I think you've got to, if it's in your nature and your character to be more reserved and more quiet and not as vocal, then I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think competitiveness can be, it's perceived in a certain way. It's being quite in your face, being quite loud, being quite talkative. But I don't think that necessarily means that you're more competitive than someone that's quiet and that goes about their business, in a more reserved way. They might still have that same steeliness underneath and same approach that someone else does, but they might not see it as visually as others. So I think most importantly is to a young kid is just be as genuine as you can be out there. Don't feel like you have to put on a persona or try and fake it. Just be yourself. And if that is being a little bit more quiet, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're not being as competitive as someone else. It just means that you're probably giving yourself the best chance because you're being the best version of yourself.
There's times where I've been coached to be as well, and times where it's not really something I'm comfortable with, but I feel inclined to, like you just said, because it was almost a team plan at the time.
Right.
So yeah, there's times where I thought, it's not really me, so I didn't really enjoy that.
Yeah. One thing I've noticed about both of you playing professional cricket is the appreciation you have for teammates and sharing in teammates' success. You know, when someone gets a big score or contributes significantly to a game, there's a genuine appreciation from the teams that you two both played in. How important do you think that is?
Again, I think that's something that comes naturally. If you've got a good environment and a good culture within the teams that you're playing in, then it becomes seamless. It's something that you really want and you care about. A lot of the time, whether it be with Glamorgan, with yourself, more with England, with me, and with Yorkshire, then you spend a lot of time with these people. You spend all year round working hard at different things. A lot of the time talking, having conversations on how you want to get better at certain aspects of your game, and then when you go and see them go and fulfill that and put it into practice, it's really nice to be able to celebrate that with them. And it's not always perfect. There are times when it's quite tough, and when you see someone come through the other side of that, that's really rewarding as someone else on that journey with them. So I just think that it probably does come more natural to some people than others, but I think it's always nice now when you look up at the dressing room or on the sidelines and you see people that you're playing alongside and your friends celebrating what you're doing out there. It makes it that little bit more special for you as well.
Yeah, I think that also comes from the times we've spent travelling around watching you playing very successful sides that have also had that
spirit.
and you know, bus rides home singing each other's praises when someone's had a good day.
Yeah.
And I think it just, you're a sponge when you just soak that up, and I think that's probably why it does come quite naturally.